Hi everybody, I'm Dawn. Welcome to my channel. Thank you for visiting with me today. So in this video, we're going to discuss Quiet on Set, the dark side of kids TV. And Quiet on Set is a documentary focusing on the children's shows of mostly the late 1990s, early 2000s, particularly Dan Schneider's behavior on the set of these shows. And we're just going to talk about the problematic behavior, the toxic environment, and just what went on that show. Now, I watched Nickelodeon in the 1980s. I loved You Can't Do That on Television. But, you know, in the 90s, I was in my 20s. I was getting married. I was having a kid. And then we didn't have Marshall until 1998. And by the time he started caring about what was on TV, he didn't really watch a lot of TV, but he watched Cartoon Network, Disney, and PBS. He didn't really get into Nickelodeon so much. So we don't really have a lot of knowledge. I had to go educate. I mean, I knew of the shows, but I didn't know about, anything about them. So I did have to go educate myself a little bit on the television shows. So Quiet on Set, The Dark Side of Kids TV is a 2024 limited series documentary released on Investigation Discovery and also released on Max and Discovery Plus. The series details the world of children's television programming, most specifically Nickelodeon, from the late 1990s to the early 2000s, touching on shows like All That, The Amanda Show, Drake and Josh, iCarly, Zoey 101, Victorious, and others, which was the Dan Schneider era of Nickelodeon. Dan Schneider was a producer and showrunner for most of those shows. A showrunner is quite simply the person that runs the show, the person who has overall creative authority and management responsibility. Dan Schneider started off as an actor, probably best known for Head of the Class. I loved that show. I loved it. My favorite character, I can't even remember her name now. She had the long, beautiful red hair. But yeah, and I had a bit of a crush on Eric. But it was a sitcom that aired from 1986 to 1991. And he is the co-president of Schneider's Bakery, a production company he founded in 1996. Quiet on Set focused heavily on Dan Schneider and his foster in a hostile work environment. All That and The Amanda Show writers, Christy Stratton and Jenny Kilgan, were interviewed on the documentary and talk about how they were forced to share a salary. Like they were hired, but they were told, you're gonna have to share your salary with another writer, another female writer. The male writers, they wouldn't have had to share a salary. They talk about a misogynistic culture and rampant sexism on set and in the writer's room. In episode 1, they talk about the tumultuous relationship they both had with Dan Schneider. The episode also talks about inappropriate ideas he wanted incorporated in the shows, like, for example, Ariana Grande grunting, squeezing a potato, asking it to give up the juice. I don't know if that was later after their time, those writers' times, but that was one thing that I found quite disturbing. And she also laid on a bed pouring water on her neck and face. And there also seemed to be a bit of an obsession with feet. Mark Summers, who was the host of Double Dare, spoke on the episode briefly, but by the time Dan Schneider came along, Summers wasn't at Nickelodeon, and anyway, he walked off the set of the interview because he was not told exactly what the show was about, and he just felt they weren't transparent with him. And, these issues didn't arise until Dan Schneider showed up, and Mark Summers was long gone by then. Cast members of All That, a kids sketch comedy show, spoke on the documentary about their experiences on the set of the show. And there were things like racism. There was one black girl and one black boy, and I don't know, just what I saw, it did seem pretty racist to me. Dan Schneider would ask females on set to massage him. He would play porn, and one of the most disturbing things mentioned in Quiet on Set was when he told writer Christy Stratton to lean over the table and pretend she was being while she told this story about high school, you know, in regards to the Amanda show. And she felt trapped, and she did it. Now, she said that today she would never do it, but she didn't want to talk about it. She is that ashamed of it. Now remember, he made the two female writers share a salary. Well, Jenny Kilgan found out from the Writers Guild that it was against the rules for writers to share a salary, and Dan Schneider got angry when he found out he had to actually pay both writers their own salary, and they were both eventually fired. But Jenny Kilgan went on and sued Dan Schneider for discrimination, and I believe it was said in the show that they settled out of court for an undisclosed amount. So in episode 2, the focus is mostly on the Amanda show and Amanda Bynes' relationship with Dan Schneider, which, according to Quiet on Set, wasn't a bad relationship. That he didn't interfere, I guess, with the parents, but her relationship with him wasn't bad. And actors from All That speak on the harsh treatment they received, but also they were talking about the Amanda show. Now, there was a rumor going around that he got Amanda Bynes pregnant when she was like 14. I researched that, and that is untrue according to my research. The only one who can verify for sure is Amanda Bynes, and she's not talking about this, you know. And yeah, so this episode also talks about production assistant Jason Michael Handy and dialogue coach Brian Peck, who became convicted offenders. And this is where it starts getting really dark, if it wasn't dark enough, but it gets darker now, because this is about children truly being harmed. Like, I mean, racism is extremely harmful, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't enough that Dan Schneider allowed this environment that created almost a safe space for those who would offend against children, that these types of monsters were allowed around children. Now, no, he wasn't encouraging people to SA children, but he was doing so many inappropriate things, it was making it feel comfortable for them. And this is just my opinion. That wasn't said in the show. This is just what I'm gathering from watching it. Jason Michael Handy started working for Nickelodeon as a production assistant in his 20s, and he also served as a chaperone for the kids. That's scary. He even said about himself that he was a PDF file. He would gain the trust of the children and keep in touch via email. Brandy, whose mom is interviewed on Quiet on Set, had an inappropriate experience with him, and it pushed her away from show business completely. And she wasn't on the show. She didn't talk about it on the show. She just wanted nothing more to do with show business after it. But again, watch Quiet on Set and you'll know what he did. One concerning thing to me is that these guys, they're like cockroaches. They're like cockroaches. For everyone you see, there are thousands hiding in the dark, you know? And who knows how many of them had access to all of these kids. I won't be surprised at all if more dark stuff regarding CSA comes out. In episode 3, we hear from Drake Bell and his father, Joe. And this is just, to me, so heartbreaking. Don't come at me with Drake Bell's past and what he's done, or what he allegedly did, because that stuff has kind of been, not debunked, but he told why he settled with this girl that accused him of some inappropriate stuff. Don't come at me with that, because this isn't about what Drake Bell did. This is about what was done to him. But Drake and his father Joe come on and they speak on how Brian Peck manipulated Drake during the production of the Amanda show. Peck manipulated Drake into believing he was more important in his life than his parents, and schmoozed his way into his life to eventually SA Drake on multiple occasions when he was 15 years old. And he was finally found out when Drake told his mom. He kind of broke down on the phone and told his mom everything, and she contacted the police, And with the help of Drake, the police caught Peck confessing in a sting, and they arrested him. But Drake was obviously traumatized. Still to this day, you can see just the pain in his eyes. And it's, to me, I find it utterly heartbreaking. But he was traumatized by the experience, even still. Several celebrities wrote letters to the judge on Peck's behalf, and I'm going to read some of them. And several of them apologized and stuff, but it's my opinion that you should... Oh, I got the wrong phone. Hold on, I have to go get the other phone. Be right back. Okay, I have the correct device now. This letter, pardon me, is from Will Friedle from Boy Meets World. I thought he was so cute. But we're going to read this. To the Honorable Michael Hoff. I might have to turn this and make it bigger. Yeah. To the Honorable Michael Hoff, my name is Will Friedle, and I am writing to you on behalf of my good friend Brian Peck, whom I have known on both a professional and social level for the past 7 years. And quite frankly, sir, I never in my wildest imagination thought that I would find myself having to defend such an honest and ethical friend like Brian. Ethical. I moved to Los Angeles in early 1993 to co-star on a family sitcom for ABC, and was fortunate enough to have met Brian on the set a few years later. The show revolved around a young boy and his family. Needless to say, sir, the entire set was full of children, and throughout the seasons, I can honestly attest to the fact that at no time, in no way whatsoever, did I ever witness Brian behaving inappropriately with anyone. As a matter of fact, Brian was so professional and so good at his job that when the show wrapped after 7 seasons, I asked him to join the crew of a new show that I was starring on. When that show failed, I asked Brian to come with me yet again to a new set, and so on. I was given the opportunity to witness firsthand the type of man Brian was, and seldom have I met a person of such moral fiber. Brian has always shown himself to be a man of integrity and honor. Spreading it on thick, aren't you? He has always held himself up to the highest standards, and in recent visits with him, I have never seen him more ashamed of himself or the charges against him. I think he means of the charges against him. I can only stress and honestly state that Brian must have felt an overwhelming sense of pressure and temporary loss of reason. Yeah, he was pressured. Brian was the one that was pressured. It would be a case of a very good person slipping. There would be no malice in his heart, no attempt at corruption, just a horrible lapse in judgment, the ramifications of which Brian is fully willing to accept. While I am a layman when it comes to the law, he spelled that wrong, I do understand that it exists for essentially 2 reasons: punishment and the safety of our society. Sir, I can only emphatically state that knowing Brian as I do, if he were granted probation, nothing like this would ever happen again. Bullshit. I can only reiterate how devastated Brian is and how these past events have forever changed him. Yeah, forever changed his victim too, a 15-year-old boy. Sorry, I'm getting passionate. If ever there is a man who deserves another chance, it is Brian Peck. Given the opportunity, I know that he would do everything in his power to show the world his true character, the man that I have come to know and respect. If I can be of any further assistance, please feel free to contact me at blah, blah, blah. But his phone number is exposed. I did get it. I have Will Friedle's phone number, or that old phone number anyway. He's probably had it changed. I'm not going to read all the letters because they are quite long. Well, maybe I will. There aren't that many of them that I've collected. Dear Judge Hoff, I have known Brian Peck for over 10 years. I met him on the set of my first film, and we became very good friends. This is not uncommon. Over the years, I have known Brian. His circle of friends has grown larger and larger. His judgment is sought, his company valued, and his honesty and hard work respected. Let me find the part. I believe a mistake was made, a large one on his part, but again, I also know the young man in question. I have met his family when his behavior and understood there were problems. I saw him pursue a friendship with Brian, maintain their close ties, saw his parents cede more and more of their parental duties to Brian. I saw the young man's employers, representatives, and finally even his parents look to Brian to take care of any problem that should arise with him. So it's his fault. It's the victim's fault, according to this guy. I'm not going to read that whole letter. I just wanted to read that one part. Taran Killam, you know him from Saturday Night Live. He wrote a letter for him. Let me find this one part. They're all such long, wordy letters. No, that one was from... Oh, here's one from James Marsden. They all of these letters mention that he was tempted, but I will put all these letters in the video, like up here, so y'all can either pause it to read it, or if you want me to send them to you, I can try to send them to you via email if you contact me. Joanna Kearns wrote a letter for him. Alan Thicke, Kimmy Robertson, James Marsden, Taran Killam. Yeah, but if you can Google these letters, you can find them in Google. I got them off of Google Images, but if you can't find them, I'll be happy to send them to anybody who asks. You'll just have to, it just depends on how many people ask. You might have to, give me a few minutes to get them to you, but I have them and I will send them to anybody that wants to read them. So yeah. So, and a few of them have made statements alluding to the fact that they feel bad about it, not fully understanding what happened. But I mean, they said, I know, like one of them said, I know the boy in question. So you knew he was a kid, right? And you knew that he did, as Drake put it, everything you can imagine someone doing in that circumstance. Every terrible thing he could do, he did to him. But anyway, they said they did not fully understand what happened. But I say what's done is done. Maybe know what the hell you're talking about before co-signing a PDF file and writing letters in his defense. Because now you'll just look like a sympathizer and someone that will stick up for people who would hurt children. And with Joanna Kearns, it kind of surprises me because she made all those movies in the 90s about being SA'd and stuff. You think she'd have be a little more conscientious, but no, she defends them. In episode 4, Brian Peck's court case is discussed. Dan Schneider's inappropriate jokes on Zoe 101, iCarly and Victorious, Sam and Cat, I think, are discussed. And Nickelodeon's decision to fire Schneider in 2018, right as the #MeToo movement was going on, is celebrated by crew members. But in my opinion, it's too little too late. Too little too late. They gave him too much power. The former child actors reflect on how this all affected their lives, and Drake Bell's legal issues were discussed. The four episodes were released on March 17th and 18th, 2024, and on April 7th, 2024, the final episode aired where they recapped the first 4 episodes, and there is also some comments by Dan Schneider in that final episode. The reception for the series has been mostly positive, and Nickelodeon responded before the series premiered, issuing a statement stating, "Now that Drake Bell has disclosed his identity as the plaintiff in the 2004 case, we are dismayed and saddened to learn of the trauma he has endured, and we commend and support the strength required to come forward. It just sounds empty after all this time. I mean, he's a man in his late 30s now, and he's still in immense pain. It is never going to end for him. Yeah, it'll get better. He'll probably have to continue treatment. And he'll have joy and happy times, but he was so sad in this interview, and it wasn't an act. It was just so much pain. There was so much pain there. And I really felt for him. I really did. I wanted to reach out to him. I don't know how to do that, but it's just, what just makes these perverts think they have the right to touch someone else's child? Like, just what gives them the right? I'm all red. Have I been red this whole time? Sorry, I'm getting upset. I'm getting worked up. He covered this red up. I mean, is that better? I don't know, but I'm getting red. I feel hotness building up in my face. Because just what makes them think they have the right to touch someone's child, to touch someone else's body in the way that they want to? He should be dead. Someone should have killed him. Someone should have killed him. You don't do that. So anyway, Drake Bell said on the Sarah Fraser Show podcast, that is hard to say, on March 22nd, 2024, that he had to check himself into rehab after his interview for Quiet on the Set. And I could see that, because I saw the pain on him, and the more he talked through the interview, the more pain welled up. It was gut-wrenching as far as I'm concerned. And again, don't come at me with what he's supposedly done, because he explained that. Don't come at me with that. He stopped communication with that girl when he found out she was underage, and all that. And even if that wasn't the case, don't come at me with it, because that's not what this video is about. So Schneider said on a YouTube interview that he agreed that some jokes on his older shows should be cut for future airings, and they were added as kids found them funny, and nobody brought concern at that time. But could they? Dan Schneider was described as being very controlling, and his way was the only way, and no one can say anything otherwise. So could anyone come forward and say, I don't want to do that, it's inappropriate? A few of them in their interview said they didn't think it was funny. But what could they do? What could they do, really, Dan Schneider is just given this attitude that people are just being upset. They're using their adult minds instead of a child's mind to look at a joke. I'm sorry, but when a girl has, just pretend this is a potato. When she's a potato and she's like doing this and like going, give me the juice. This video is probably going to be censored or demonetized because of that, by the way. But not Dan Schneider shows. Dan Schneider got what he wanted, and there was no telling him no, and that's one of my takeaways from this show. And it was a good series, but I don't think Dan Schneider really learned anything from it. He's just given PR responses. I don't know. They didn't talk to Brian Peck. I would have liked them to. I would like to hear what this wad has to say for himself. He is a disgusting individual. And he continued to work in Hollywood after he got out of prison, after his little stint in prison. Let me find that. Hold on. I'm going to find that for you. Sorry. So he got to be in Love Wrecked, Outlaw Trail, The Treasure of Butch Cassidy, House of Fears, Forever Strong, Bedtime Stories, Bitch Slap, Freaks of Nature, The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. He was still involved in that in some level. Oh, it says here the voice was later replaced. He was the voice from a mirror. He did anger management. Yeah, he hasn't done anything. It doesn't look like he's done anything since 2015 as far as Hollywood goes. But a couple interesting facts about him. He was pen pals with John Wayne Gacy. He even received an autographed clown painting from John Wayne Gacy, which Peck has framed in his house. He is openly gay, and he used that as a way to protect him, like because Drake Bell's dad went to somebody about his concerns with how much Brian is just touchy-feely on Drake. And he goes, oh, that's just his way because he's gay, but you don't want to say anything because you don't want to seem homophobic. So they protected him, you know. I don't think they knew what they were protecting, but people protected him. I'm trying to find. He was arrested on August 19, 2003. And charged with 11 counts. And in March 2024, that they discussed that on the show. And he was convicted of 2 counts and sentenced to serve 16 months in prison. And he's a registered S offender. So, yeah. But he's disgusting. He's disgusting. I think anybody who would hurt a child that way should get the death penalty. They deserve the death penalty. He should have got more prison time. He disgusts me. He's a monster. But I hope this documentary helps forge, like, foster positive changes in show business for child actors. I don't guess there's no way to really regulate, like, child performers in family channels. But they need to, kids need more protection than what they're getting. I guess maybe it's better now, but we won't know until like 15 years from now when they do a documentary about kids shows today. But anyway, that's it. I'm really annoyed. That just reading that and talking about that made me mad. I do feel like Drake Bell's story should have been saved for the end. Not for the climax, but because it is so much more serious than anything else that happened on the show, that they talk about that and then they move on to other things. I feel like it diminished, kind of diminished his story a little bit, and it's a story that should not be diminished. I hope Drake Bell is okay, and I've definitely been thinking about him a lot lately. So yeah, I don't even know that show, but I just, I'm concerned about people. Just concerned, that's all. But anyway, that's it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to everyone later. Bye.